And joining us now on We the People is one of the best known names when it comes to tiger conservation. We're talking about Valmik Thapar with over 48 years of work with tigers. He's the author of 40 books mainly on tigers and wildlife. Thank you so much, Mr. Thapar. It's been a big day for all Indians and especially those who have spent their entire lives working on the issue of tiger conservation. Project Tiger was launched in 1973 by the Indira Gandhi government. It's completed a golden jubilee this month. This year, we now are told, the Prime Minister has announced that India has 3,167 tigers. Take us through what that means. You've been following these numbers for decades. Could you put this into perspective for us?
Well, to give you a little history, when Project Tiger started, the count of tigers was 1,800. Then in 1989, when they used the pugmark census, the count was touching 4,000. Today, 50 years after Project Tiger, it's 3,167, which means actually it's come down slightly since 1989. But still, as far as I'm concerned, it's a great achievement that we have 3,000 odd tigers left in this country. And this comes from a combined effort by independent experts who have worked these 50 years and very good government officers who sacrificed a lot to keep the tiger alive. So we should pat our back that we have these tigers, because there was a time in my life I thought it would be much lower at the turn of the century.
Well, what next then, Mr. Thapar? Because we seem to have a paradox where we are in this position where we have over 3,000 tigers now, but we're a country that is developing at a very fast rate, and they are in a sense our treasure. They are our green wealth. What does India need to do now, given the fact that we have these tigers? What's next?
I look at it as a 5-point program. These are my priorities after 48 years of experience. The first and most important is training. We have to get state-of-the-art training to all our forest staff who looks after the land of the tiger and the senior level middle management. Every year for 1 month, they should get an understanding of what the tiger needs, what are the problems that have increased, how they can refresh their strategies to get better results. So training is essential at field levels, but also in the National Tiger Conservation Authority. Anyone who joins the NTCA must be trained in understanding the tiger and its needs. You can't just depute forest officers to the National Tiger Conservation Authority. And if the National Tiger Conservation Authority starts looking after cheetahs, that should be a separate cell. You can't mix up tiger conservation and cheetah conservation. So the NTCA needs senior level training for them to get a hands-on approach to what tigers need in site-specific situations. Secondly, I think we need joint management teams at the field level, which means we need to contract independent experts, anti-poaching experts, wildlife scientists, rural developmental experts who work as a team with the field director. They are contracted for 5 to 10 years. Our younger generation needs to have the opportunity to take decisions, not to be listened to and do a yap in various committees, but actually be in the field and get their hands dirty working with the field administration. So a new, fresh approach to how the outside world mingles with the government to take decisions for the tiger. Thirdly, all our tiger reserves are ringed by villages. We need to find a more inclusive approach where we encourage village wildlife volunteers. These are the younger generation who live in villages who should be given some camera traps, a smartphone, and they provide very important information on the movement of wild animals on the edges, what's going out, what's happening, any illegal happenings that are coming into the park, be it poachers or woodcutters. This army of conservation should now enter with villages that are all around. So one person from one village, about 50 to 100 people in every one of these 53 tiger reserves. It makes a new army of conservation, which I think is really, really important. Then we need a rewilding strategy. The buffer areas, which are very degraded, some are held privately, some have degraded agricultural land, some have revenue land. There should be a mapping of this area to see how much we can extend our tiger reserves. So the spillover of animals, the spillover of tigers, and the spillover of wildlife is contained, and animals have more space to move around. This needs strategic planning. You need to work with villagers, you need to work with the stakeholders, you need to work with different government departments. This to me is really vital if we are going to make and have a healthy base to our population. Look at tourism differently. We need a new reformed policy. At the moment, about 18% of our tiger reserves is allowed for tourism. We need to rotate these areas regularly. That means every 2-3 years, a new area is given for tourism. The old is allowed to relax. We don't do enough of this. So we have tourism and it goes on in the same area year after year, year after year. But we need to change it. We need to be flexible.
Yes.
We need to understand what visitors want from a process. And when you combine all these things, you get a more inclusive way to managing wild tigers. At the moment, we don't do that. We are shrouded in secrecy. Nobody reveals what's happening. They do things on their own. And we should have a much more transparent approach towards tiger conservation. To me, this is really vital.
All right, so a hugely successful project so far, but many, many challenges ahead. I just want to touch upon two things that you've talked about a little bit. You talked about a healthy population. Also, you're talking about tourism. You know, as a parent to young children, I think this generation is so blessed. They're so lucky. And even compared to children abroad, that our children, Indian children, get to go and experience safaris and get to see these magnificent creatures in the wild, as opposed to children in the rest of the world who are seeing them in these in the zoos. But now our tiger reserves are also going up. So what is a healthy number that you're talking about, and how does one manage this man-animal conflict? Because as we would want our tiger numbers to go up, there will be more of that.
Let me put it this way. Let me correct you first. This is not the most successful project. I think we've achieved wonders that we have 3,167 tigers. Maybe if we've had some more reform measures, more transparency, we would be at 5,000 tigers. Today, I believe that this is a good enough number for India to have with 1.4 billion people. But I believe we could probably stretch it to 5,000 tigers. I don't believe in miracles. I think this is practical. This is possible. If you look at areas around tiger reserves and how you make little corridors, to mitigate man-animal conflict, you require to have an inclusive approach where local communities participate. The minute they participate, the younger generation, they also have a passion, just
Correct.
like we here, they have passions there. We have to respect their passions, we have to understand them and bring them together. So 5,000 tigers is a possibility if we have a fresh approach, if a program is followed where you work as a team and there's no yap, tu, meh, and political divides. This is what destroys good management. And we need good management, which I'm afraid in many areas of India is lacking.
All right, so we're all in this together. Thank you so much, Valmik Thapar, for your time, for joining us.